Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about lesson 1.8, angle pairs. Today's lesson will allow you to be able to define angle pairs, what are adjacent angles, complementary angles, supplementary angles, linear angles, and vertical angles. Linear angles are also called linear pairs. Pairs, specifically, when we refer to a pair, we mean exactly two angles. So each one of these, adjacent, complementary, supplementary, linear, and vertical, refer to a set of two. With vertical, it is a set of two, but we'll talk more about that soon. You'll also be able to use angle relationships to write and solve equations, a very essential part of geometry. Equations are always coming up, all right? And we'll be able to recall properties of equality and use them to justify solutions. Alrighty, so the notes you need to take are the definition of complementary angles. Two angles are complementary if and only if they add up to 90 degrees. So, for example, I have this 90-degree angle here. But because this is one angle, this is not complementary. What would make this complementary is if there were two angles in one. So angle 1 would be complementary to angle 2. Meaning if I add up this angle here and this angle here, 1 and 2, it would give me a 90-degree angle. Okay? So keep in mind, complementary, two angles that add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary angles. Two angles are supplementary if and only if they add up to 180 degrees. So for example, a 180-degree angle is a straight angle or a straight line. So this itself is a straight angle or a straight line, but it is 180 degrees, but that doesn't make it supplementary to itself. It requires two angles to make it supplementary. So if I add an angle here, that's angle 1, that's angle 2. If I add up this angle plus this angle 1 plus angle 2 equal 180. And that's what would make it supplementary. Two angles would make it supplementary, and adding those two. Just like in this case here, if I added up angle 1 plus angle 2, and it gave me 90 degrees, that makes it a set of complementary angles. Let's look at the question below. Given the measure of angle A is 6x plus 105, and the measure of angle B is 13x minus 20, and that angle A and angle B are supplementary. Annotation is so important, right? We're going to write adds to 180, then solve for x. So here I can draw out the image, right? Supplementary means since it adds up to 180, it's a straight line. I would use a ruler, but I totally forgot. I will in the future, all right? And so like we said, we would need two angles to make it, for it to be supplementary. So the measure of angle A, let's say this is angle A here, is 6x plus 105. And the measure of angle B is 13x minus 20. In order to solve for x, we need to set up an equation that reflects the relationship. And the relationship is that supplementary angles, when added, equal 180 degrees. Now I would just need to combine like terms. And I am going to be using a calculator. So I put my pen down for a second so I can use my calculator. And I'm going to combine these, 105 minus 20, and that gives me 85 is equal to 180. I'm going to Subtract 85 from both sides. That's 95. Divide that by 19. And x is equal to 5. So I just solved this equation using what I know about the properties of supplementary angles, okay? So let's very quickly take these notes where we're talking about the properties of equality, okay? So the reason why this is going to come up is because, once again, you're going to be writing proofs very soon. And so these properties are going to come up in proof writing. Essentially, what they're saying is that the addition property of equality is that if A and B are equal to each other, then A plus C, or A plus another value, and B is the same as B plus another value. All right, the subtraction property of equality, if A equals B, then if you subtract C from A, you're going to get the same thing you would get as if you subtracted C from B. And I gave you an example of the addition property here. So going back to the addition property, if A and B are the same value, that means that if A is 5, then B is 5. So if I add, and if C is 4, if you add 4 to 5, it's going to be the same as if you add 4 to 5 here, okay? Going down to the multiplication property of equality, if A is equal to B, then if I multiply C times A and C times B, I'm going to get the same value. Division property of equality, make sure you're getting all of this down. Division property of equality when C is not equal to 0. Why do they stress that? Because if C is ever equal to 0, you divide a number by 0, it's undefined. I'll show you how that looks. Any number divided by 0, you should have talked about that in algebra, but any number divided by 0, doesn't matter what that number is, 10 divided by 0, 10 divided by 0, you're going to get an error, right? You can't divide by 0. You can't, because it's undefined. So the division property of equality, if A is equal to B and you divide both sides by C, you're going to get the same value on each side. The substitution property of equality is if A is equal to B and A is equal to C, then C is equal to B. Because if these values are the same, so let's say A is 10, and it says A is equal to B, that means B is equal to 10. And A is equal to C, that means C is equal to 10 too, then B and C are going to be equal, okay? Simplifying, combining like terms example, if you're given this, right, A plus 2A equals B, you can combine these values and get 3A, which is what you get here, okay? So that's the algebraic properties of equality. Make sure you get this down. I'm going to start another video covering the rest of this lesson. See you in a bit. Make sure you watch video 2.